Welcome to Interpersonal Communication class. My name is Brian Simmons, and the purpose of this video is to welcome you to the class and explain a little bit about myself, as well as a little bit about how the class is going to work. First of all, I'm honored you've chosen to take this class. I'm not the biggest fan of online courses, but I believe that, especially in certain times, they are necessary. And so I'm happy to offer this class to you, and I hope you'll find it to be a blessing. Interpersonal communication is all about better understanding how it is people communicate with one another. So over the course of this term, we're going to be talking a little bit about things like how males and females communicate differently, and about interpersonal conflict and how people communicate in friendships. We'll talk about lying and deception. We'll talk a little bit about apologies and excuses and all sorts of other topics. I think you'll find this course to be relevant, and I think a lot of what we talk about will really resonate with you. But first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been teaching college for 33 years, most of it spent in Christian higher education. And I'm one of those people that just loves what he does for a living. I sometimes say that I have the best job in the world, and I genuinely believe that. And although you and I won't get to interact with one another in the way we might if we were actually in the same classroom together, I promise to do my best to make this class work for you. In my 33 years of teaching higher education, I've found that students learn more and classes go better when we get to know each other a little bit. So let me tell you about myself. So I'm a graduate of Oklahoma Christian University, but I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. So that makes me a desert rat. I love it when it's warm and I hate it when it's cold. So I came to Oklahoma Christian in 1983, back in the 1980s when the music was awesome and the fashion was, well, quite frankly, terrible. At any rate, after finishing my degree in communication at Oklahoma Christian, I went out to fabulous Malibu, California, and earned a master's at Pepperdine University. And then after that, I began my teaching career in the Midwest, and along the way completed my PhD at Purdue University. I really come from Portland, Oregon. And what I mean by that is I spent 25 years of my life in the Pacific Northwest teaching at two different universities there before I came here to Oklahoma Christian. And in many ways, that's where my heart is. I've been at Oklahoma Christian now for 6.5 years. I came in 2014, and I plan to stay here until the day that I die. In fact, they'll probably have to pry me out of a classroom because I love my job so much, and I really believe in what we're doing here at Oklahoma Christian. I've been married for 33 years. My wife Sharon and I met here at Oklahoma Christian University, and both of my children, my son Luke and my daughter Madison, are also OC graduates. So OC runs pretty deep in the blood of the Simmons family, and I hope that it works out for you just as well as it did for my family and I. As I said, I've been teaching college for a long time, and I love what I do. And in particular, I really enjoy teaching this class. In fact, of all the classes I teach on this campus, interpersonal communication is probably my favorite. But because it's an online class, it's going to be a little bit different than it would be if you and I were in the classroom together. So let me take a few moments to explain to you how this class works. What I've done is I've tried to replicate as best I can the experience that you would have had if you had taken this class in a face-to-face mode. So what that means is this. I've created video lectures of the content that I would have presented if you and I were together in the same classroom. You'll notice that there are multiple modules that I'm going to ask you to complete. Each module essentially is a half-hour or so video lecture of me sharing with you the research and the ideas in interpersonal communication. There's a different topic for each of those videos, and each module typically has one and occasionally two videos. So the way the class works is this. The class is split into 3 different sections, one for each week of the term that you're taking this class. So my expectations are that each week you will, at some point during the week, on your own time, watch the prescribed videos. Usually there's about 8 or so each week. It depends, as you'll note in the syllabus. And so what you'll do is you'll watch those videos. And then after you've watched those videos, you'll write a 10-page, double-spaced, typed paper for me that demonstrates that you understand the ideas in those videos. Now, don't be scared by the fact that it's a 10-page, double-spaced, typed paper. I know that sounds like a lot, but each paper is the same in that I ask you to consider movies you've seen, or television programs you've watched, or think about your own life, or think about books that you've read, perhaps plays that you've attended or read, and I want you to apply the ideas that I talk about in the videos to the TV shows, the movies, the books, the plays, or your own life. They're application papers. And so what you'll do then is you'll write 10 pages that tell me how you've seen the ideas from the videos exemplified in your own life or demonstrated in the TV shows that you see. And you're welcome to write each paper a little bit about your own life and a little bit about a TV show, a little bit more about a different TV show, and a little bit about a movie. All of that is fine. But the point is you're applying the ideas that you encounter in the videos to those kinds of things. You'll do that 3 times. So in the first section of the class, you'll watch about 8 or so videos. You'll do that by completing the modules. Then you'll write a 10-page paper. And the next week, you start it again. You watch the next set of modules, the videos associated with those modules, write the 10-page paper, and then do the same thing one more time in the 3rd section of the class. And so as you complete each of those papers, you'll email them to me at the date and the time specified in the syllabus. I read the papers, and then I email them back to you. Now, I know that might sound kind of daunting, and I realize that not everybody feels like they're a good paper writer. A lot of people, in fact, might feel really uneasy about that. So to make things a little easier for you, here's what I've done. First of all, I'm always happy to read a draft of the paper or a portion of the paper before you actually email it to me to be read for a final grade. And the second thing I do is on the very first paper assignment, I'll give you an opportunity after you've turned it in, after I've read it and given my feedback. If you're not satisfied with the grade on that paper, I'm happy to have you revise it based on my feedback and then send it in again, and then I'll revise the grade based upon a second reading. Now, I'll only do that for the first paper assignment, but I have that policy because I want to recognize that many of you might not have ever written a paper for me before, or you might not quite get the hang of how to write those papers. Another thing I've done is that I've posted on the website a sample of what the paper could look like. It's a paper that one of my students wrote for this class a few years ago, and so if you take a look at that sample paper, I think you'll get an idea of how it is you might write your paper. And then finally, I've also loaded into Blackboard a document that's titled Writing Papers for Brian Simmons. It's just my way of putting into one document some tips that students have found helpful over the years in terms of writing papers for me. The main thing, of course, is that you really understand the ideas that we're talking about over the course of each of the video lectures. That's the heart of the class. And to me, the way you demonstrate that you get those ideas is by applying them on those papers. But that's all you'll do. There are no quizzes, there are no exams, there are no discussion board posts, none of that. Just simply you watching the videos and then writing 3 different 10-page papers that show me you understand those ideas by applying them to your life or to movies or to TV shows or something like that. So I think the papers could be rather fun to write, and I think you'll find that as you go through this, you'll see interpersonal communication all over the place. When I teach this class, I sometimes joke and say, I want to ruin your life. And what I mean by that is, I want you to become so familiar with these ideas in interpersonal communication that you see them everywhere, in the conversations with your parents or your friends, when you're watching movies, anywhere in your life. I hope that you stop and think, wait a minute, that sounds a lot like what I learned about an interpersonal communication class. If you can do that, then that means you've learned something. And as always, I want to do whatever I can to make you successful in this class and to be a blessing to you. So by all means, don't be afraid to reach out to me. The easiest way to do that is through email. My email address is in the syllabus. It's also in the OC directory. Email me as often as you'd like with questions or concerns or anything I can clarify. I want this to work for you, but I can't make it the most successful unless you coach me and help me know what I can do for you to make it a success. We can also meet via Google Meet or Zoom or something like that if that's more comfortable for you. The bottom line is I just want to do what I can to make this successful for you. So I hope the course is a blessing. I'll leave you to it and let you get on with the next module. Again, thanks for honoring me and taking my interpersonal communication course.